fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Hello everybody and welcome to Suzuka. It's a new season of the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series. Plenty of updates, plenty of changes, including that brand new name right off the top of the show. Our biggest ever field, a 44-car grid, and we're going straight into the action, ready for race one of the evening. That's how your top 10 line up. We'll roll through that grid incredibly quickly. We are live right here on Simspeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones, alongside me, as always, for this series, we do have Cameron Dance. They ran qualifying, and it was pretty tight, but after it all, you've got your familiar names up at the front. Very good qualifying from Reese Gardner. He'll be starting from third. But this track is big, it's long, it's going to take a big effort for these guys to get around here cleanly. A 15-minute sprint, another one of the additional changes that's been made for the season. An extra 5 minutes being added on to both the sprint and the feature race. The feature as well coming up at the conclusion of this and another qualifying session. So a slightly longer race. So a few more opportunities for drivers to find their way through the order. Final seconds tick down on the gridding process, and we're going to get this thing underway. Looking at your front row of Harlow and Preston. Who gets the jump? As the revs rise, the green flag flies. We're underway. Even launch from your top two. Harlow's going to cover him off down to turn one. Contact in the background as a couple cars hit the fence. Look at them swarm down to the first corner.
Clean start by everyone by the looks of it so far. No real major incidents. I did see Mario Vartanian though get pretty decent start on Reese Gardner, but Reese has managed to hold on to that position, and Harlow with another great start. So again, the protagonist in the championship last year just came up short, is managing to put himself in the perfect position to start this championship off right this time around, but he's got Preston all over his back bumper at the moment.
Indeed it does, and here comes Preston to the inside of Harlow, trying to take that top spot away. They run wheel to wheel, but Preston backs out of it, tries to switch back to the inside. He had a look, but he couldn't quite make it stick. Gardner lurking there in third place as well. Vartanian and Dean Ross, fourth and fifth, and into the fence. Who was that in the background? They gave it a big whack. Might have been Dylan DeBono.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch that one, but I do think it was probably Dylan DeBono as well. Probably have to go back and have a look at a little bit later, but everybody sorted themselves out pretty good actually so far through this first lap. A couple of drivers further back going 2 by 2, the likes of Brad Klink, Daniel Heddershield, and also Ashley Normanall battling it out further down in the field, just outside the top 10. But yeah, at the moment it's pretty line astern.
Deeper back in the pack, there's Daniel Hedgersfield trying to fend off one of the Borough Pairs cars. As we've already got 13 minutes left to go. A big track means 2-minute lap times, an excessive 2-minute lap time, so it's going to go by very quickly for these drivers. Final turn on the track is a chicane. Going to be very tough in that last lap if you haven't got a gap to fend someone off into here, as Harlow at the end of lap number 1 will lead them. Your top 3 will remain unchanged from how they started. It was a bad start for Riley Blythe, in fact. He started this one from 5th place. He's dropped back to 6th. He's a new face in the field. Haven't seen him so far in this series, making his debut today for Evolution Racing Team.
Yeah, he's decided to come out and appear as teammate of Riley Preston out in that Evolution Racing Team car, so it'll be good to see what Riley can do, and he's been keen to try and at least give this series a red hot go this season, so Blythe will definitely be sure to try and put his car up the pointy end of the field, but nevertheless, did actually see there's a few people getting caught out by slowdowns on that first lap, and obviously being front wheel drive. Some of these corners are really difficult to get right now. Nearly everybody ran wide through 130R, trying to keep it as flat as they possibly can, but nevertheless, Jackson Susan Harlow is still really doing a fantastic job at the front of the field, but Kobe Williams has got his hands full at the moment, full of Will Newell and Dylan DeBone, and he's trying to hunt down Mario Vartanian at the moment, who's doing actually a pretty decent job at holding him off.
Yeah, Williams recently becoming a privateer, unfortunately, through really no fault of his own. The Eclipse Simsport team shutting down, and a lot of drivers now being left without a team. Ryan Jerrick included in that list as well. As DeBono had a big move up the inside of Will Newell there, pulled that one off, got it stopped, and up into 8th place for DeBono. Yeah, so Harlow up at the front, trying to bounce back. Doesn't have a championship yet. Despite the amount of wins he's picked up into this series, probably maybe the all-time winner in the series, but no championship after losing out last season. But looks like he's going to have his hands full this season if today's anything to go by, these opening 5 minutes, because Preston's going right with him, and he's not letting him go at all. He's stuck like glue to the back of that rear bumper. Deep in the pack as well. Some good action going on.
Yeah, certainly is the what would be Eclipse car at the moment of, I believe that is just behind Ole Fontana, if I can find it in the very large list of drivers. But yeah, nevertheless, it's really been quite a season for Jackson Susan Hart in the last season to win the number of races that he did and then just come up short. It was probably Daytona that was his big downfall after having that massive incident between himself and a few other drivers in one of the races, but nevertheless, he's definitely storming, and so is Reese Gardner, who's putting a lot of pressure on Riley Preston at the moment for P2, and Reese obviously doing actually quite well in the second half of the last season, so he's really come out storming and is really starting to challenge for these front runners.
Yeah, this is as good as he's ever qualified, as good as he's ever raced. He was a second off of Harlow in qualifying, but it doesn't seem to have that same disparity here in the race. Important to note, Harlow and Preston were separated by a 10th, and then, yeah, a second back to Gardner. They had a lot of time in hand over the field, and Reese so far, the only driver to go with them here in the race. Of course, a rebranding to Ozicar now. The overbranching arm that controls now multiple leagues, including the Skip Barber Series tomorrow night, and the V8 starting next Friday. That was a look, and probably wisely a move that was backed out of there by Sam Ross into the hairpin. He's got a couple cars in behind him for company as well, Reese Howell and Casey Mann.
Yes, pretty busy in that mid-pack with a number of drivers really bumper to bumper at the moment, the likes of Sam Ross and those sort of drivers. It's really, really busy in that mid-pack, and it's really difficult to actually pass with how technical this track is, as the likes of Sam Ross have shown. If you can defend hard enough like Cavallaro was, you can actually hold a position reasonably well because of the fact that you're on front wheel drive and you're sort of having to look after those front tyres at the same time as not, well, have to try and use them to your best of your ability. So it's really, really difficult for a lot of these drivers, but just behind, Sam Ross is coming under attack from Resale, but Hal not quite able to get the job done on him.
This is a big train of cars at the moment as Purple goes Harlow up the front. He's starting to stretch his gap back to second and third. So the Altus Esports driver starts to stride away from the field as another look there. But again, not close enough. Reese Howe showing a lot of intent to get by. He's dropped a few spots since where he started, so he's trying to recover here, but Sam Ross is just quick enough in the places in the track where Howe's able to make those moves, and as a result, he can't get by him, which is going to be incredibly frustrating, and I think probably Ross being held up by Cavallaro too is distraction.
Yeah, certainly. You can see that Sam Ross is just slightly stronger in a few places that would more or less be holding him up, and when he probably shouldn't be. But nevertheless, it is one of those things. It's one thing to catch a driver, but it's another thing to pass them. So you got to try and get the move done cleanly, or race control will give you a slap on the wrist, as we've seen in previous seasons. So we'll see how this battle develops, and whether Sam Ross can actually find a way on by, or whether Reese Howell's going to manage to find a way on by and have a go at Cavallaro. But nevertheless, it's really, really a procession for a lot of these drivers, and race 2 is going to be very interesting with that pit stop strategy.
Certainly is, and wonder if we'll see any change to the pit stop strategy being a 5-minute longer race, or we still see drivers diving in as early as the end of lap 1 and as late as the end of the race. We'll wait and see. Preston starting to fight back. He's got the slipstream in this long run down to 130R as well, which is helping him to claw back a half a tenth or a tenth of a second. He'll have it down the main straight too. Going over the rear wing of Harlow's machine. He throws it over the curve, the inside of 130R. Doesn't feel the need to defend the chicane. He's not quite close enough, but he's getting closer still. Gardner just a bit wide in the background too. Under a second, covering the top 3. 6 minutes to go. They got 4 seconds over the rest of the field, as there's a mistake further back in that battle with Cavallaro and Sam Ross. Cavallaro bolted wide up at the chicane. Ross snuck on by, and Reese Howe going to capitalise as well. And he gets into him and he turns him onto the main straight. They spin to either side, and oh no, collected by Mirot. And that's the big incident.
Yeah, it's very messy and left with nowhere to go with Howell coming across the track. I'm not quite sure how Eddie Beswick managed to justify it. He actually didn't. He ended up getting clipped and hitting the wall. So a few drivers involved in that incident. Yeah, not very good at all.
Yeah, Beswick with major damage to his car. So 4 cars in the end in that incident. And that is a massive shot on the entry of the main straight. The onboard from Mirot shows us. You just see a car to the left, a car to the right, and nothing she could do. Heavy impact. The car completely destroyed. And it all stemmed from Reese Howell just trying to sneak up the inside. The room wasn't quite there. If it was, Cavallaro shut the door in the end. He got spun across him, and yeah, ugly.
Yeah, not too ideal of a start to the championship for the likes of Mirot, Reese Howell, and those drivers that were involved in the incident. But nevertheless, it is one of those things that does happen in racing sometimes, and obviously with everybody being so close, it is a lot harder to pass as well. So you're going to try and take every opportunity that you can and use it. Well, try to get by a driver, but at the moment, Preston still stuck behind Harlow, but he's looking like he might be a little bit closer this time and might be able to get a move done into the Casio triangle if he can get close enough, as he's right on the bumper now in the 130R. Not quite able to get the run out of the corner, but it's still pretty even, and Harlow's going to go slightly defensive here as Preston nearly makes contact with the rear bumper.
So hard to follow closely through 130R. Such a high-speed corner, a tricky corner. Aero understeer as well can affect you. So, Preston did a good job to stay with him there, but just made that mistake through the Casio triangle and drops about a tenth or 2, but he is right there challenging for the race lead with just over 2 and a bit minutes remaining in this one. Takes a wider line and a wider arc for the double right-hander that opens up the lap. Trying to get the right off the corner and then through the S's. Nowhere to pass here. Watch him. He'll run a slightly different line to Harlow all the way up the hill.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, this SS section, where you can sort of, there's no one standard line. You can kind of get away with running your own specific line, more or less, whether it be through working the setup or just the driving style that you have. Some drivers will use a natural line of going from the inside to the outside and that sort of stuff, whereas other drivers will try and keep it a little bit tighter through majority of it. It's really interesting to see the different driving styles and the different ways that drivers attack different corners, but nevertheless, if it works at the end of the day. So props to whoever makes it work, and Preston getting very close, looking to try and go around the outside, but not quite going to be able to do it.
Preston is setting himself up for the exits of all these corners. And this is going to be very crucial up here. This long left-hander, if he exits well, he could be in for potentially a sniff at 130R, which would be risky, but doable. Or the Casio triangle. It'll be the white flag when they come to the line. Here we go. He sets himself up for the late apex. He gets the power down. Front-wheel drive cars, so it's tricky to get it down early without understeering wide. Did a good job of it. He's very close, on and board with the front bumper. There's Harlow in front. Harlow driving it down the left-hand side of the track. Preston pulls alongside to the outside, wheel to wheel to 130R. They run side by side. Preston ends up all the way out in the runoff area. He rejoins behind him, shooting again to the outside of the track as Harlow defends. What a scrap for the lead. There's just one lap to go as we come back to the main straight.
Yeah, fantastic battle going on for the top spot on the podium at the moment between Harlow and Riley Preston, two very world-class drivers in Aussie and Z. So we'll see who comes out on top in this, but Preston is really not giving this one up easily and is going to give it everything he possibly can to try and take this win off Harlow.
His opportunity is going to come, I think, again, towards the last sector of the track. He's going to be a little bit patient now through this opening sector or two, through the S's. Still battles happening right throughout the rest of the 40-odd cars still left in this race after that big crash a couple laps back, battling inside the top 10, just outside of it as well. Ryan Jerrick's trying to run his way through the field after a horrible qualifying by his standards. Was buried at the start of this one. He's now up to 18th, but he started all the way back in 39th place, so he's certainly done a lot of overtaking already as we head back to the front. Riding from the roof of Preston's Evolution Racing team car into the hairpin. He needs to close up. He needs to be closer.
Yeah, he's probably not quite going to get it, but a big lunge there from Mario Vartanian up the inside into the hairpin, and he's not quite going to be able to get it. It was actually did with Bono, sorry, but Vartanian's just going to hold on around the outside to have the inside for the next corner. So good bit of defensive driving from Mario Vartanian, but at the front of the field, Preston's got nothing. There's actually a bigger gap than there was at the start of the lap.
There is. Harlow's really stretched everything he could from this car on the final lap. But there's still a mega braking zone left into 130R. Preston closes up. He absolutely threw it through the left-hander into the final chicane for the final time in race one. Look at him close, ranging up to the back bumper of the Alta C Sports machine, almost pushing him through the corner. But what a titanic battle. And at the end of it all, Jackson, Susan Harlow, going to take out race one from Suzuka. Race one of season 4 goes away of the Alta C Sports, man. And I really hope that's a clue to how this season's going to go, because that was spectacular.
Yeah, it certainly was a great fight in the end between two very good drivers. Also, just seeing that the likes of Dylan DeBono actually managed to just get ahead of Mario Vartanian in the end. So good drive from him, and everybody else starting to come across the line. A lot of drivers, and Riley Blythe's actually tumbled down the order, so something's happened to him on the last lap there.
Well, that's a shame for Riley in his debut. Yeah, he is dropping, isn't he? And he's in pit lane, in fact. He's made the fence somewhere on the track. In fact, I'm seeing damage to the roof for their car. I wonder if he's actually rolled it somewhere out there on the circuit. Either way, that car is torn up to pieces down on pit road. Oh, that doesn't look good. That's how the car's ended up.
Yeah, and looks like he's had an incident with Kobe Williams. Not
Here we go.
Very, very odd one. We've got a replay. Here we go. So coming up
inside
towards the two Dignas. He's on the inside, and then Kobe Williams, a big lunge up the inside, looks to the inside again, and just side-to-side contact, and they ended up into the wall.
Ooh, almost rolled it. Car got up on her two wheels, and wow. Both those drivers can be extremely disappointed with that one. Let's go through your results here from race one. Jackson Harlow takes it out by a 10th and a half. over Riley Preston in the end. Reese Gardner was 2.6 seconds back after going with them early. Dean Ross still DeBono 4th and 5th. DeBono made a couple good moves to make that one happen. Vitanian in 6th. They had a Will Newell in 7th. Caleb Hydes, I think, a career best there in 8th. Tom Freer, Daniel Hedgesfield, 9th and 10th.
Then we go back to Sam Ross in 11th, 12th to Ashley Norman, 13th to Matt Morris, 14th, Casey Mann, top 15 for Ryan Jarek, your last season champion after starting 39th. So a big recovery drive there from Jarek before we go back to Brad Klink in 16th, 17th to Matthew Spencer, Sebastian Weisberg in 18th, 19th to Perry Anastakis, and rounding up the top 20 is Bruce Ross.
Matt Dunphy and Grant Matterford, 21st and 22nd. They were pretty close at the line. Ole Fontana, Jake Sperry, 23rd and 24th. Ahead of James Allen. Other than Selga Lenti, Ara Fellerberg, Isaac Edwards, Tim Cornt, and Jaeger Pascoe, 29th and 30th. And you see the rest of the field scroll by on your screen. Stay with us. There's still another race, another qualifying session to come, plus some pit stops here in this feature right here on Simspeed TV, getting Season 4 of the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series underway.
North Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this 0.625-mile racetrack. Here's the starting lineup. On the pole from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Ford qualifying and Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison.
Georgia, Bill Elliott, straining car number 9 to bring it home. 10 car lengths. Bill Elliott, two-time winner of the Great American Race. Now the out-of-fuel Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt is going to win the Trans-South 500, his second win of 1987.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh
him.
my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back to Simspeed TV, to our coverage of the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series, brought to you by Simfinity, RMS Race Management Service, RSW Graphics, and Apex Imagery. Big thank you to all of them for making the broadcast and this series possible. And what a show we just had for race 1 of the season. Harlow and Preston putting the afterburners on in their battle for the race victory. My name is Ryan Jones, of course, and Cameron Dance still with me up here in the comms box. Cameron, great first race, and now the second one's going to be just about, or just under double the length, with a pit stop thrown in too. What do you reckon we're going to see?
Well, considering it's a slightly longer race and the lap's actually very long, hard to tell because we saw a number of drivers being compressed, and this is also such a much larger field than we've seen in previous seasons. So it doesn't really matter if you pit on lap 1 and you're in like second, for example, and everybody from 20th back pits at the same time, because there's still going to be drivers around you regardless of when you pit. So it's really going to be quite interesting to see what sort of pit strategy actually works best in terms of minimizing how much traffic you end up in, and also making sure you don't go too long or too short.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, only taking 2 tyres as opposed to 4, so tyre weight isn't as big of a talking point. But still, got to be careful. You're putting 2 cold tyres on the car. It can upset the balance of your Audi TCR for a little while till they come up to temperature. And if you do go late on, you may end up with some uneven wear across the car that could unsettle how the car handles around on the track as well, especially through some of these high-speed corners we've got. So a 10-minute qualifying session coming up here to set the grid for race number 2. They've got 3 laps that they can complete in this session to will finish off all of the allowed lap times. You can keep doing laps after that, but it won't count. Daniel Hetchersfield here, sporting a Sinfinity livery, similar to that of series owner Ira Fellerberg. So running for 111 Esports, we can assume.
You would be correct in that, and so is the likes of Bradley Wynyard. There's actually quite a few of them out there, actually. So, yeah, good to see the 111 guys out there and giving the series a red hot go. And we'll see how they go along the season. Stuart Crawford, also one of the other drivers, sporting one of those liveries. But yeah, there's a number of new names in the series, and it's really, really good to see. We've obviously got the regulars from previous seasons. You've got the likes of Jake Sperry, Ryan Jarek, Jackson Susan Harlow, Riley Preston, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, it's really good to see a number of new names that we haven't seen in this series before jumping in and having a go.
Oh, poor Tom. His teammates with Sperry. Well, he's got a lot of weight to pull in that machine if he wants to drag that team towards the front of the standings. Although, on that topic, Sperry was incredibly well up the order. 24th for him, about halfway up the pack. That's probably his best result in terms of cars behind him at the end of a race, so he'll be happy with that. Brad Clank, of course, as well. Another one joining us this season. He will be teammates with Benjamin Dahlia, I do believe.
And Sebastian May Wesberg as well to add to that.
That's a pretty strong team. Westberg and Dahlia both returning from previous seasons. But, of course, going to be very helpful for them to add a third driver to their lineup. Sam Ross. We've seen him perform well with his brother Dean Ross over the course of previous seasons. he's coming with a new look ready for the 4th season, ready to attack and hopefully bringing him some new pace.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit odd trying to no longer have to try and spot the old black and green car of the Ross brothers. It's gonna be looking for the black and chrome car with a little bit of red accent. It actually does look quite good, I must admit, with that apex on the side of it and the chrome. So yeah, gonna be a little bit different, looking at something that I'm not used to for the past 2 or 3 seasons. But yeah, really nice look and really good to change it up, the boys.
Isaac Edwards sporting the Racing Oz livery there as well. He comes out in the series. Dylan Gray sporting an iRacing.com car at the moment as well. He makes his debut. So many debutants out there today, and we saw a very clean opening race with the exception of the big one up at the last corner, which was very good to see, in fact, all these new drivers.
Yeah, certainly is, and obviously the more drivers that come on board, the more popular the series gets, and as well as the more competitive it gets. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the next season is going to bring in terms of numbers and drivers that might come out of the woodwork. Who knows? We might see the likes of the big guns, whether it be a few more Alta C Sports drivers, or whether we see the likes of Ethan Greg Galton possibly come back, or we see the likes of Trans-Tasman Racing, or those sort of drivers who you wouldn't expect to show up but might just come out and have a crack sort of thing. It'll be quite interesting to see what sort of talent and teams might come out of the woodwork in terms of the series. But yeah, it's still a really good series, and really good to see a number of drivers jumping in, having a go in the series. I mean, entries were full within basically hours of the entries opening up. So yeah, it's just going to show how how popular the series is becoming.
Ashley Norman, the sole entrant for Chicken Up Racing this season. Unfortunately, Martin Turner not returning, but he will be in action in the Ozicar V8 series on Friday nights. What can Norman put down for his first attempt? As Preston goes to the top, and Norman goes to P5. A good lap from him. Big margin for Preston at the moment. Similar story to race 1. We wait for Harlow to assumably join him at the top of the sheets. Sebastian Murray Wesberg will look to complete his lap, and that's going to put him back in 17th. So Harlow's first lap didn't count. He did a 14.7. So he was still half a second off Preston, but
Still
that
good
means
enough for
Preston got
P2.
a lot of pace, though. But yeah, it would have been good enough for P2.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Harlow can do on his second lap here, and whether he can try and go a little bit quicker than what Preston is. Obviously, that second lap's going to have a little bit more heat in the tyres, but with it being a long lap, the tyres will have had a little bit of the edge taken off, but nevertheless, we'll see what happens in the longer laps. Also going to make it that much more important in terms of getting a lap in as well, because you're not really going to be able to utilize all 3 laps if you time it wrong. You're only going to have more or less 1 or 2 laps if you sort of get it wrong. So we'll see who ends up getting caught out and who doesn't end up getting all 3 laps in. But nevertheless, Harlow's one that's going to be one to watch, as he's not too far away from finishing his lap, as JW Hughes comes across the line, and he is going to put himself in the order. He's not actually going to set a valid lap time, so Hughes going to stay down the bottom end of the field. But Harlow coming through the final sector now. Let's see what sort of lap time he's going to be able to do. He did do a 14 on his first lap. That did not count, so he comes across the line, and it's 13.8.
Oh, that's quick. Now, in race 1, they did a 13.1 in qualifying. Preston a 13.98. He's a 10th off him. They're about 8/10 off their Q1 pace. The track temp might be a bit hotter as well. Riley Blythe, teammates to Preston, goes to 3rd. He gets within a second as Hydes improves as well. Really impressed with Hydes here, Cameron.
Yeah, certainly. He's done a really good lap there, actually, to end up putting himself where he is. It's not easy to end up coming up against some of these more regular drivers who are regulars in the TCR cars. So he's done a fantastic job there to end up with the lap time that he has. But nevertheless, it's starting to see some decent lap times come in on the field. And you've got a few drivers actually who haven't actually set a lap yet. You've got the likes of Bradley Wingard, you've got Reece Gardner, Kobe Williams, Joshua Cavallaro, a few of the bigger names, and even Ryan Jarek hasn't set a lap yet. He hasn't even actually gone out on track. So a few drivers possibly opting not to qualify, and some opting to, well, having mistakes on their laps.
Yeah, Kirby Williams will be looking to improve as well, as Tim Cornt hasn't been able to put down a lap time yet. Coming up towards 130R now. Probably one of the trickier corners on the track to get right without losing a lot of time. Probably the easiest spot to get an off track as well if you run too wide.
Yeah, it can be one of those tracks where you actually do have to sort of pay attention to the track limits, and especially with grass either side and AstroTurf as well on the edges, you really can't afford to make a mistake, more or less, as Tim Cornt puts himself in P28. So not too bad of a lap from Tim there, but Harlow coming through the final sector actually bails out of his final lap, so clearly not too happy with the final flying lap there, as we'll see what Preston can indeed do on his final flying lap here. Just seeing Kobe Williams go to P number 14, but Preston comes across the line and does improve, but not quick enough to beat Harlow. Blythe coming across the line as well, not going to set a valid lap time.
Yeah, got Pascoe gonna hopefully put down his first lap of the session. He goes to 30th. It wasn't his first lap, but wasn't improving either way. So he'll be happy with that. Looks like 38 drivers have set times so far. A few haven't. A lot of people being caught out by off tracks or not being able to get one completed. Again, Ryan Jarrett can have to start from the back. Nearot is probably not going the right way around the circuit there. Interesting to see our reigning champion there not putting down a lap time in either qualifying session, having to race his way through the pack on both occasions. This is how they line up for race number 2. Looking at the front of the field again, it's Harlow and Preston. Blythe and Hydes on row 2. Ross from 5th. Gardner only 6th this time. Mario Vartanian and Will Newell from 7th and 8th had a Reece Howell and Dylan DeBono.
Row 6 will be Tom Freer and Sam Ross, followed by Ashley Norman and Mayor on row 7. Row 8, Andrew Hobby and Matt Morris. Row 9, Kobe Williams and Sal Galenti, followed by Casey Mann and Eddie Beswick, rounding out the top 20 on row 10.
Did you say top 10? Joshua Cavallaro from 21st and Brad Clank alongside Grant Matterford, Matthew Spencer on row 12. Benjamin Dahlia, Daniel Hedgesfield behind them. Sebastian Murray Westberg and Periana Stakis on the 14th row of the grid. Jake Sperry and Stuart Crawford line up on row 15.
And we have the rest of our field on screen. You got Stephen Grimer and Ira Felberg on row 16, row 17, Ole Fontana and Tim Cornt, followed by Jager Pascoe and Isaac Edwards on row 18. Row 19, James Allen and Dylan Gray, Jack Patterson and Ryan Jarek rounding out the top 20. Then we go back to the likes of Reece Grant, Bradley Wingard, Matt Dunphy, Bruce Ross, Stephen Credden and JW Hughes rounding out your 47 car field.
You said top 10 and you said top 20. You got it all wrong, Cameron. Track conditions, 27 degrees. So pretty cool for these drivers. Look at how many TCRs you've got lined up on the start line here at Suzuka. Interesting how the leaders actually start before the finish line. So it's pretty much before you begin your lap. And if Preston can get ahead of him before the start, I wonder if he might be able to run away because he had so much pace behind him there in race 1. The start could be crucial. Look at it, a 12-lap race distance, 25 minutes, a mandatory pit stop as well. Let's see who gets it done in race number 2. Good launch from your top 2. They both pull away very nicely. And look at Blythe trying to cover off Caleb Hydes. And look at Sam Ross taking him 3 wide down into turn 1. Hydes has to back out of it as Ross goes all the way around the outside but can't quite make it stick. So Blythe will retain a P3 as the rest of the field make their way through the first 2 corners nice and cleanly.
Yeah, good start there by Dean Ross to move up 1 position, but so far everybody's made it through cleanly at the front of the field. A few drivers getting involved in some minor incidents further back, but nevertheless, still pretty good start by everybody, and it's still on at the front of the field. Again, bumper to bumper between Harlow and Preston.
Look behind them though. Caleb Hyde's getting a bit of a hurry along from Reese Gardner. But he's tucked right up behind Sam Ross. He's got nowhere to go. That's Dean Ross, in fact, behind him. So, in fact, it was Dean Ross up at the first corner, not Sam Ross. Sam Ross that I was calling, that was going around the outside of them all. So, apologies for that. Sam is back in the field at the moment. And, in fact, he's part of an incident because that's Tom Freer spinning at the hairpin. That was just in front of Ross.
Yeah, it's all getting a bit crazy at the hairpin with a couple of drivers actually going 2 and 3 wide further back, and Tom Freer getting a bit of front to rear contact from Ashley Norman actually. So Norman probably going to cop a bit of a penalty there. We'll get a replay of the incident actually so you can see coming towards the hairpin, Freer just slightly ahead, and Ashley Norman probably just missed his marker a little bit with trying to keep ahead of Sam Ross, and unfortunately made some slight contact with the car of Tom Freer. So a bit unfortunate there for Freer, but still on at the moment at the front of the field. Dean Ross challenging Riley Blythe for that final podium position, and he's got the car of Caleb Hydes and Reese Gunn all over his back end. Reese throwing up the inside and a bit of contact.
He keeps it straight. They keep on going. Look at the exit that Dean Ross has gotten, though. Gets to the inside of him, and they're going to run door to door as Gardner completes the move on Hydes behind them as well. So Gardner puts himself up into 5th. Dean Ross challenging for 3rd. He's got his nose in front down into turn 1. This should be a done deal on the preferred line for the first 2 corners. He does. Oh, but he slides wide. In fact, Blythe is sliding as well. And now they're 3 wide. Look at the run that Gardner's got. He gets checked in to the grass.
They were 3 wide at one point, and that was very lucky that Reese actually managed to just hold on to that. Dean Ross just managed to bump Blythe into Gardner, and Gardner had to sort of try and recover. He was lucky not to actually lose position to Caleb Hydes there or anyone else, or even put himself on the wall. So very, very lucky for all 3 of those drivers, but it's very hot and heated at the moment for that final podium spot between the 3 drivers, and they've got the likes of Caleb Hydes, DeBono, Vartanian, Howell, and Neil not too far behind.
I wonder if any of these drivers decide they want to pit, get out of this, get into some clean air, and try to undercut the guys around them.
Yeah, it could be very possible that they might, and we've already got some drivers on the pit lane as well. You've got the likes of Ashley Norman, Kobe Williams, Brad Klink, Sebastian Murray's Wesberg, Dylan Gray, and Sal Caliente, all opting to pit on lap 1 to try and get out of traffic and also get a bit of damage repaired if they're involved in anything. But yeah, like you said, it's gonna be really a big question mark of, does anybody decide to pit right now and try and get a bit of clean air, or do they wait a little bit longer till there's a few more drivers cycle through pit lane so that they don't end up stuck in traffic?
While these guys battle, they drop absolute tons of time to the top 2. They're 3.3 seconds back up towards the end of lap 2 already. Harlow and Preston, of course, separated by about 1/10 of a second. Here we go into the final chicane. Dean Ross ahead this time, but not by that big of a margin. Riley Blythe still right there with him. And as I come off the corner, look how close he is. None of them take the right hand turn to pit road. And now, down the main straight, Blythe coming back for P3. Look at that, they're side by side in front of them. Harlow having a defender from Preston. They touch on the entry to 1.
Yeah,
and
the
behind them, Blythe has got his nose ahead. There's contact between them as well. Gardner's got to go by him. So Blythe now goes back to P5.
Yes, a bit of musical chairs at the moment between the likes of Ross Blythe and Gardner, and even Hydes, who's right on the tail of Riley Blythe now after a bit of contact there.
Sorry, Cam, but Preston, if you got on board, he was on his bumper, literally, all the way through the S's.
He was nearly running. He was actually pushing Harlow, pretty sure, based on how close he was earlier, just before through the S's. But nevertheless, he's definitely got a lot of pace and probably going to be starting to think about pitting to try and undercut Harlow at some point. Although I imagine there'll be a bit of a reaction between those two to see who ends up pitting when. But this is a big train of cars just behind them for that final podium spot. You got 1, 2, 3. You've got nearly 10 cars all in a line behind them, just trying to get their way into that final podium spot. And Blythe has actually dropped off the back of Gardner here. So Gardner's going to try and have a bit of a go here at Dean Ross to move into a podium position. Couldn't quite get close enough there at Spoon Curve to have a go, but nevertheless, he's going to try his best to find a way by.
Well, Season 4 is kicking off with a bang. Let's have heavy race at Suzuka. This is an absolute storming race so far. The cap's now 5 seconds from second to third, by the way. Slack continues to stretch, and let's look for pit road again. Into the chicane, no moves at the front. No one's close enough in the battle for third either. They all just make sure they get through here nice and cleanly. There's 18 minutes remaining, so we're certainly well and truly inside the pit window. Nope. No one's in.
Another lap goes by and no real takers at the front of the field to the pit lane. So everybody sort of biding their time, which is kind of interesting that no one's really wanting to try and use an undercut strategy to their advantage. Obviously, slightly longer race, but yeah, it's possibly that there is still that number of drivers yet to pit, so probably going to have a number of people watching and waiting to see when majority of the field pits just so they can get a bit of clean air, and it's really just going to be all about who ends up where at the end of these pit stops. So I imagine the likes of Gardner and Blythe are probably going to take advantage of an undercut strategy, but who knows?
You just saw there, Ott has pitted, so she's one of the few drivers that has, the leading car in fact, that has pitted. Look how close Gardner is. Doesn't go for a move in that Fusion Sim Racing machine. Not yet, at least. Ross will live to see another corner. A few drivers copying some black flags throughout the field. Ashley Norman, Jack Patterson, and Andrew Hobby all having to serve a penalty. Ashley Norman's will be for that contact, I imagine, up here on lap 1 with Tom Freer.
Yeah, would be by the looks of it. And Caleb Hydes has made a mistake at the hip and was actually contact between himself and Mario Vartanian. Very lucky to actually gather it back up was Hydes, but he's now going to be under pressure from Vartanian, and even Howell's going to get involved in this as well as Neil. It's going to be all on it.
He's in the grass. Didn't hit him. Can he save it? He can. Great wheel work to keep that thing from rotating a full 180 degrees, but somehow Caleb Hydes stays ahead of them. Vartanian stays there in 8th, and Howe in 9th. That was remarkable. Howe was another bigger spin.
Yeah, I don't quite know how he managed to save it, but it's all on for the lead of the race at the moment. And Riley Preston's all over the back end of Jackson Susan Harlow. Nearly tried to force him move up the inside at the Casio Triangle, but couldn't quite find the gap that he needed. So going to have to sit behind for again another lap behind that of Sports.
Trying to defend, Preston chasing him all the way into the inside of the track. Ends up having to go the long way round, but it doesn't work out for him. Fighting the car as he tries to get it turned into the apex there. Rear end not liking it as you try to turn it in late at turn 2. Not the first time we've seen that today. Riley Blythe had a similar issue towards the start of the race. Might have been race 1, in fact, we saw that. But still, it's Dean Ross and Reese Gardner behind them as well in the battle for third. They're starting to pull a slight margin on Riley Blythe as well, those two.
Yeah, they certainly are. Those two have got a lot of pace, doing consistent mid-14s. Meanwhile, likes of Ross and there are doing in the 15s. So there's still several tenths between those lot in terms of pace. But yeah, it'll be, if these two at the front come together, it'll be just the rest of them rubbing their hands together and being able to take advantage of possibly positions gained, if not closing that gap down even more.
See a battle there with one of the 111 esports cards. It's Ara Felberg. That's Grant Matterford on his outside. Can they go wheel to wheel through here? No, Felberg will swoop around the outside to take that spot. That's Bruce Ross, sorry. Matterford's teammate. Same car, a different name.
Yeah, and the car of Bruce Ross has actually got Matthew Spencer all over his back bumper at the moment. He's trying to find a way on by Matt Dunphy just in the background as well. Ira doing a pretty reasonable job at the moment. He's actually up from 32nd on the grid, so doing a fantastic job at being inside the top 20 and 18th at the moment.
In the background, up the inside at 130. Oh, that's ballsy. But he does it. Ross did not want to go around the outside. He dabbed the brakes, and Gardner slides on by, takes P3.
Yeah, good move by Reese.
In the top two.
Yeah, there's big scrap going on just behind as well between Hydes, Vartanian, Howell, and Newell. It got very close, nearly contact at the hairpin, but Vartanian all over the back end. Will Newell has decided to come in, and Vartanian as well. So another two takers to the lane. Cavallaro and Beswick follow them on in as well. We have to wonder if possibly Cavallaro or Beswick did speed in the pit lane, but nevertheless, we get a replay of this pit entry very late. Nearly put himself in the wall, actually, with how late that entry was. He just barely clipped the grass, but managed to pull it up regardless. And still, the battle at the front of the field continues with those two at the front being bumper to bumper as normal.
Yep. Still bumper to bumper, still no change. Still Preston can't get by. That Astro Gaming car. No wonder if Harlow is the first to pull the trigger, will Preston come with him, or will he try to do the opposite and stay out?
Nearly a move there from Preston as well at the hairpin, but yeah, that's good question. It really is going to come down to whether Preston has the pace or not, because there's going to be no point coming in if he knows he's going to be slightly quicker, and if he's just sitting behind saving fuel or just saving those tyres, he might be actually in a good position to stay out and do a bit of an overcut on Jackson here. He's probably going to be pushing quite hard and has been pushing to try and stay ahead of Preston, who's been putting a lot of pressure on him across the entirety of this race so far. They're pretty much only 10 minutes to go, so they're beyond halfway. So yeah, it's really going to be a matter of who blinks first, really, at the end of the day. But Casey Mahan really coming under a lot of pressure on Matt Morris here. Is going to be all over the back bumper of that Pursuit Sim Racing car now as they come down towards 130 hours. Morris going to have a look. He's possibly not going to have a look, actually. He's just going to sit on behind. This is going to allow Benjamin Daly to possibly have a look, but decides better of it. And Man's just going to take on up the road with that fact, with the fact that Morris is backed out. But Preston is finally in, and so is Gardner.
All right, so Preston's trying to get some clean air. Wow. Matt Morris must have been a millimeter away from swiping the tyre bundle on the entry there. That was close. It was closer than Vartanian, that's for sure.
I mean, the pit entry's committed, but that's majorly committed. Oh, and he's actually missed his box as well as Morris.
Preston rolls off pit road. He'll get back up to speed in clean air. Oh no, Fontana gets ahead of him, but shouldn't hold him up too much. So he's got some clean air to work with now. We'll see whether he can utilize it, and we'll see how quickly Harlow responds, or whether Harlow continues to run his own strategy.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be a very, very good question to see when Harlow decides to pit, whether he does it this lap or just continues to sort of drive his own race at the front of the field at the moment. Obviously, clearly has a lot of pace to be able to use, so we'll see whether he's just been saving his tyres like Preston has, or whether he's been pushing quite hard and is going to start to suffer some tyre wear. But nevertheless, we'll wait and see what happens, and really going to be a good question of whether Preston's possibly going to get held up by traffic here. So we've got a replay here of Norman having a big lunge into turn 1 on the cars of Daniel Heddershield and Bruce Ross. You can just see the door was open and pretty much straight up the inside of both of them. And Norman actually copped a whack from Heddershield for running slightly wide and in front of him for his move, but nevertheless managed to get the move done and then managed to just get around the outside and then up the inside into the Digners ahead of Bruce Ross a few corners later. And Harlow is indeed in.
And he's followed by Dean Ross and Riley Blythe. So Dylan DeBona will lead the lap. First time he's led here on the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series. Benjamin Dahlia stays out too. That's JW Hughes spinning around in front of your leader. All right, watch this re-entry for Harlow. Where's Preston?
Coming through the Casio Triangle now and just up the pin entry now. So this is going to be very, very close.
I reckon Preston's got him.
I'd say so, because Harlow's just dropped.
Gets up to speed. Here comes Preston. There's Harlow. And he goes by him. So Riley Preston to the effective race lead. The undercut works. Can Harlow respond now? Or is Preston going to run off to the sunset?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Harlow can do. Once his tyres are up to temp, remember, he's going to have to deal with a lot of understeer and possibly some oversteer as well with those cold tyres for this first lap or so, and really is going to have to look after them, not overheat them too quickly. So we'll see what happens here and whether Harlow can cut that gap down. He's already dropped quite a ways back as well after just the first few corners through the S's section, but nevertheless, he's going to have a very hard task ahead of him at this stage, as Sebastian Wesberg doing a pretty decent job at the moment coming through. The Casio Triangle, big impact! What has happened there?
I don't know what's happened, but I can tell the end result of it is major damage to both race cars. Luckily,
Replay on screen, and
oh, he's hit the grass.
That's a big, big off.
He's hit the grass on the brakes, and it speared the car out of control. Oh, no, he lost it.
He lost it off through 130R and then touched the grass and pretty much just wasn't able to stop the car and straight into the side of Sebastian Wesberg.
Wow. Hey, so Dylan DeBono's come down to pit road. Preston's got traffic in the form of Ira Felberg. Will it hold him up through the chicane? Nope.
You didn't say that's no.
It's out of the way. The margin between Preston and Harlow is stretching out on this lap, so he is using the clean air to his advantage, and that Evolution Racing Team car looks set to run away now. Reese Gardner is effectively in third by the looks of it.
Yes, you would be correct on that, and Dean Ross is not too far behind him actually, so Reese going to be pretty happy with the P3 if he can get it here and just hold off Dean Ross, who's not looking in too bad a shape at the moment. Those two definitely come a long way since their initial seasons, but replay here on board Sam Ross coming through the Casio Triangle, goes to pit and has someone trying to pit at the same time. That was nearly an incident waiting to happen and nearly had Sam Ross in the wall there.
Man, that was close. This pit entry is proving to almost have as much action as the racetrack. There's a very close battle at the moment between Benjamin Dahlia, Caleb Hydes, and Joshua Cavallaro. And Cavallaro, in fact, makes contact with Dahlia. They both slide a little bit. Cavallaro goes by, and now Dahlia's going to have to watch out for Hal, who gets hit by Casey Mann. A lot of beating and banging in this little scrap. And Cavallaro is redressing to Dahlia. He's going to lose out to Reese Howe, though, unfortunately, as a result. And probably now has a slowdown because he cut that corner.
Yeah, all sorts going on in this little battle pack here. The redress has sort of checked everyone up a little bit, and it's really caused a little bit of chaos, but nevertheless, everybody seems to have sorted themselves out, and car of it. Reese Howell trying to go around the outside of Dahlia and a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and Dahlia is going to just succeed with this move after holding the inside for the sweeping corner, but that was nearly ending in tears, and Howell looking to the inside, but not quite close enough to get a move done.
Yeah, and that's going to hurt him on the exit of the corner. He's going to be too far back down at 130R, barring a mistake from Dahlia. So Preston's margin is... We'll find it. We'll find out in a second. 2.5 seconds over Jackson Harlow. 2:14.4 and a 2:14.8. So he pulled out 0.4 of a second last time by. Fastest lap of the race as well, with 2 laps to go. Still scrapping back here for P9.
Yeah, they certainly are. They're not leaving anything on the table of these drivers, scrapping for that final few positions just inside the top 10. You got Dahlia, Howell, Man, Cavallaro, and Sam Ross a bit far behind, but if any of these 4 come together, there's definitely going to be an opportunity as Howell goes up the inside of Dahlia, and he's going to have the lap car of Caleb Hyde's going to be 3 wide, but Dahlia's just going to end up... No, actually, Hayes is actually on the same... Hyde's is on the same lap, so that's actually a position gain for everybody, and Hyde's coming out of... No, actually, having a issue there by the looks of it. Not quite sure why he ended up slowing up, but that's a position gain nevertheless for everybody, and Benjamin Dahlia managing to hold off the car of Reese Howell, but Cavallaro's coming back at Howell now and is going to look to the inside. We're going to have a bit of issues with not being on the inside for the Digners.
Supremacy on the brakes for Reese Howell to clear Cavallaro there. Dahlia is hoping to continue to battle so he can maybe pull away from these guys a little bit. Casey Mann in there, and Caleb Hyde's out the back of the train, trying to find a way back through them all.
Yeah, certainly is trying to find a way on by, and Hyde's is now starting to put a bit of pressure on the car of Man here, who's going to be trying to keep up with Cavallaro here, but just seemingly not quite able to have the overall pace, and Hydes is going to be trying to find a way past to try and gain those positions back. There's not too long left in this race for moves to end up being done, but nevertheless, we'll see what happens on this last sprint to the flag. I do believe it's going to be white flag based on how long left is in the race, so we'll see who ends up doing it these last lap dives and who's going to have to settle for a lower position. And Hal's definitely trying to find a way on by Benjamin Dahlia, and he's going to move to the inside and block Cavallaro. In contact between Dahlia and Howell, and Howell's going to have to redress that, and they're going to drop a number of places out of that.
Well, the drama continues in Suzuka. Dahlia now towards the back, and still side by side at the head of the train. This time it's Cavallaro and Mann. To the outside looks Casey Mann. Looking very strong and almost ahead of him. Cavallaro trying to fight back through turn 2. He's still got the car there, but he's on the wrong side for the first part of the Esters, and Mann clears him. So good move there.
Yeah, good move by Mann to hold it around the outside, and Cavallaro going to come under pressure from Hydes as well. He's looking left and right and centre to try and find a way on by, but he doesn't want to look around too much. He's going to have Benjamin Dahlia trying to find a way on by him, as well as Dahlia's going to have a slightly better run up the hill towards the Digners. Not quite going to be on the right side of the road, but if he can get around the outside, he should be able to have the advantage, which he very much does, and gets a position off Hydes.
Remember, it's the final lap of the race as well, so these are the last opportunities for any of these guys to gain a position, as Sam Ross has joined the battle as well at the back of the group. It's going to be wild at a 130R on the Casio Triangle. As out front, Riley Preston, after running second to Harlow in race 1, has fought back, and the pit stop has worked to his favor, able to pull the undercut strategy. That Panther Racefuels Evolution Racing Team car looks fast. Give it some clean air, and it will run away. So Preston takes out race number 1. Harlow will come across second. They'll be tied on points coming out of round 1 in season 4 of this series. Look further back to Gardner coming home in third. Cavallaro going around the outside at 130R, ending up in the runoff area. Casey Mann then will lose out, but is that a legal overtake? Into the triangle. Mann lunging back up the inside. Now wide through the second part. Here comes Dahlia off the exit of the quarter with momentum around the outside. Wheel to wheel, the battle for what should be P10. Benjamin Dahlia is going to take it. Casey Mann will end up 10th. What a great scrap.
Yeah, an absolute fantastic scrap for those positions just inside the top 10, but it's all on at the moment between Ole Fontana and James Allen, who's trying to get to the back of Fontana, but it's not quite going to be enough. And Fontana's just going to hold on to the position to come home in 21st, Allen in 22nd. Everybody else starting to file on through, and yeah, what a race it's been, and what a victory from Riley Preston, considering he sat behind and just bided his time.
Jake Sperry comes across 25th. Don't think it was that without drama, though, looking at the front of that car. And yeah, wow. What a race again. Ryan Jarrett's been in the wars. He did not quite come through the field as he did in race 1. Damage to the front left of that former Eclipse Simsport car. He'll finish 28th. 31st, even. Battling all right throughout the field. Let's see how that all shook out and how the final results stack up here for race 2. Final race, the first round of the season. Preston won by 2.4 seconds back to Harlow. Gardner was 11 seconds back, and Dean Ross still in DeBono 4th and 5th. Riley Blythe in 6th, and Mario Vartanian behind him. And then that massive battle with Cavallaro, Dahlia, and Mann completing the top 10.
Then we go back to Caleb Hydes and Reese Howell, Sam Ross, Tom Freer, and Kobe Williams rounding out the top 15 after what was an amazing scrap on that last lap between the likes of Hyde, Howell, and Ross. And you go back to Will Neal, Ashley Norman, Stephen Griman, Daniel Haddishield, and Ira Felberg rounding out the top 20.
That start of the top 20 was Ole Fontana and James Allen, Pariana Stakis in 23rd, Isaac Edwards and Jake Sperry, Stuart Crawford, Tim Cont, Matthew Spencer, and Matt Dunphy 28th and 29th. And Jaeger Pascoe, your top 30. The rest of the results scroll through on your screen. Let's have a chat to Riley Preston. Well, the pit stop worked in your favor. Congratulations coming home with the victory.
Yeah, and it's about time too.
Man, it was a fantastic scrap in both races. Let's talk for a moment about race 1. You qualified second, but you were right with him through the entirety of the race. Didn't seem to quite have that last bit to get by. What was the story there?
Yeah, so Jackson just had a little bit over me in qualifying, and he's very good on the start, so I just couldn't get by him. And I felt like the car was definitely a little bit quicker than when I was sitting behind Jackson, but I think it was just quicker in all the wrong sections, like into the S's and down the back straight. There's really no way to pass through there. So I had a little bit of a go, but couldn't get it done in the end.
130R, yeah, that was bold. Race 2, pit stop, much more in your favor. Waited a long time before you brought it to pit road. Was there a concern at all over maybe tyre wear or anything, or were you just waiting for the right time? Because certainly you might have been worried that Harlow may have pitted before you and undercut you.
Yeah, I wasn't too concerned. I mean, ideally, I would have liked to have been ahead coming into the pit stop phase, but I kind of had the advantage being behind Jackson because my plan was if he pitted, I'd stay out and overcut him on the while he was on the new tires. But yeah. I actually saw some traffic coming up ahead of us, so I decided to dive into the pits. And I'm not sure if he got held up at all, but managed to just get by him on the exit.
Yeah, I think it was just a case of the clean air was very beneficial for your ERT machine, and you walk away with a victory. Walking out of the round, you and Harley will be even on points. We've got 2 more races here in Japan before we head to Australia to finish off this season. Certainly looking like this may be a championship run in the making between you and Harlow.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, the 2 races tonight were very fun, and we've had some good hard racing together. So yeah, hoping for more of that.
Oh, so we're certainly looking forward to it as well. Before we let you go, who do you want to give a shout out to? And sponsors, of course.
Yeah, shout out to Panther Race Fuel for supporting the team, MIR Raceline, Joel Real Timing, and shout out to Alex Galizia in the chat for supporting me every week.
Hey, well, thanks for joining us, and best of luck for next week. I'm sure we'll probably talk to you again.
Too easy, thanks.
So that was your second race winner. And now with your race 1 winner, we got Cameron Dance.
Yes, indeed we do. Jackson, it wasn't quite the perfect run in round 1, but nevertheless, the first and second, you've got to be pretty happy with the start to the championship so far.
Yeah, it's a good start. Obviously, like, I won a lot of races last season, and one bad result put me behind the championship. So anything can happen. So this season's just about getting the points. So it's not too bad of a start.
Yeah, it certainly is all about getting points at the end of the day. And obviously, a mix of various different tracks ranging from Japan and Australia. So what tracks are you more or less looking forward to in the schedule?
I'm looking forward to Bathurst. I'm looking forward to that a lot because that's a track where you've got to throw everything down like Belle Isle to be quick. So I like that about the tracks. So when we go there, it should be good. Should show who can be aggressive enough and get close to the walls and see who can get the job done.
Well, next round, heading to Okayama instead of Tsukuba like originally planned. Are you looking forward to it all? And what do you possibly expect to sort of happen there?
Okayama's a fun track. I'm not really bothered. Like, wherever the track is, you just got to go with it. So, yeah, I'll go there and see how I can go. Hopefully, can go good again and try and get some more wins. I'll probably have to muck around my pit stop because I don't know if I didn't realize that where you position your car actually made you lose or gain time. I think I lost about 6 seconds overall to Riley tonight in the pit stop. So I better learn where to position it properly for next race.
Yeah, well, certainly that'll help. But, well, before we let you go and get ready for round 2, any thanks to any sponsors and any shout-outs?
Yeah, just a big thanks to the Chiefs, Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Modem Simulation, Cube Controls, all the Altus boys. Shout out to my mates for keeping me focused all through the race, just chatting to me the whole way. So that was fun. Always good fun listening to what they have to say through the race. And looking forward to the next one.
Oh, there you go, Ryan. Your race 1 winner and second place finisher in race 2. But you'll be probably delighted to have an interview with a pretty happy Reese Gardner.
Well, Reese walking away with the podium there in race number 2 and race 1 as well, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
But, yeah, either way, great night for you.
Yeah, it was excellent. I was not expecting to be as fast as I was, but Suzuka, I guess, is just one of those circuits that if you get every corner right and you keep it consistent, you can be fast. So yeah, it was fun. The car was pacey.
Hey, first half of race 1, you were looking like you were going to be going with Harlow and Preston. It was a fantastic opening stanza from you. Then you started to fade. How close are you in terms of pace? Obviously, in qualifying, you're about a second back, but in terms of race pace, do you feel like at some point it may be viable to race with those guys, or are they just in another planet?
Well, I guess I was happy that I was able to keep with them at the start of race 1 because they were holding each other up a bit with the amount that they were battling. But the thing is, in this car, once guys like Jackson and Riley get the tires working, I just cannot keep up with them. I just have some trouble with consistency. So that's why I dropped off in race 1. In race 2, it was largely because I messed up race 2 qualifying, ran out of fuel at the very end of my 3rd lap, and that meant I started in 6th, and I was held up behind Dean and Riley Blythe as Jackson and Riley just rocketed away. It was a fun battle, though.
Yeah, it certainly was. Talk us through the battling out there on the racetrack. It was some titanic drills right throughout the field. From your perspective, was it a case of the big straights keeping everyone bunched up in the slipstream, or just the track itself is conducive to tight racing?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. Suzuka does have long straights, and the slipstream really helps you. Myself and Dean Ross traded places a couple of times because of that very thing. But Suzuka also has a lot of very long flowing turns, and particularly in the first sector, turns that flow right into each other. So you kind of have to measure the way you drive through the opening section of the track and focus on the exit. So when you're in a battle situation, it can be very easy to get on the throttle a bit too quickly, or not carry as much brake as you should. So that's a reason why I think the racing was so close here today.
All right, looking forward to the championship. So 2 third places today. You may be looking at a consistency. Say it's not your strong point, but look for a consistent racing season, and maybe eye off a P3 in the championship.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I can repeat my performance in Season 2 UK, but we'll just have to wait and see. We're going to a couple of tracks this season that we raced at before, Phillip Island and Bathurst, so I'm looking forward to seeing how I go there. All I'm really focusing on is doing as well as I can round by round and minimizing mistakes.
Well, before we let you go, are there any sponsors or people you want to thank for?
My team is Fusion Sim Racing, and sponsors are D-Carter Plastering, Dripping Paint Graphics, and Eclipse Signage. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you, Reese. We'll talk to you at some point later on. All right, so final thoughts before we wrap that one up, Cameron. It was a fantastic evening of racing, maybe one of the best we've had in this series.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was action-packed throughout the field, and can't wait for round 2 if this is anything to go by with the number of drivers we had. So, yeah, bring on Okayama and bring on round 2.
Hey, bring on tomorrow night. We're going to racing in the Skip Barbers at Phillip Island. Never seen a bad race in the Skippy slipstream. And the draft keeps those cars glued together. That's going to be an absolute cracker. So make sure you tune in at the same time tomorrow night right here on Simspeed TV. Plus, there's plenty more action coming up for us on this channel and also on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure you like us on social media to stay up to date with everything that is coming up for us. But in terms of tonight, we're going to say goodbye from myself, Ryan Jones, and from Cameron Dance alongside, and Jake Kennedy behind the scenes. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside. Both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top. Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?